Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between.
He's a South Texan poppy poet living that hashtag middle-class gay life. It's Chibi.
She's a little bit Selena, a little bit J-Lo, and a whole lot of Pisces. It's Rocky.
And this is Words and Shit,
the show where you get to know the person behind the poetry.
Brought to you by Write Art Out.
Yo, welcome everybody. So I am here by myself because my co-host Rocky lives in New York City and she is stuck in traffic, but she will be here with us shortly. As you can see, this is not the usual background from where we are broadcasting Words and Shit. I am live in Galveston, Texas at the Bravado Inc. Book Fair in front of a live audience. Audience, make some noise! Super freaking exciting for what is going down here tonight. We are featuring local artists here from the Galveston, Houston, and beyond area. You can see some of their books in the background. So we want this to be as interactive as possible. We're going to be taking questions from the audience here, but also yourselves watching out in the virtual land. So make sure you use that comment section to throw in your questions. We have some incredible authors that are going to be featuring for you tonight. Is absolutely going to be a speed dating type of night. We're going to bring on each of the authors. They're going to read a poem. We're going to have a conversation, and then we're going to bring on the next author. So you're going to get a plethora of poetry tonight. You excited for poetry tonight, people? I love having a live audience, all right? As soon as Rocky gets on here, we're going to jump her on so that we can have a healthy conversation. But we're going to get the night going because tonight there's been a whole slew of events here in Galveston at the bar, and there's something happening right after us. So if you're in the area, come on down. Any case, our first guest tonight, Tirina Harris, is a mother, poet, and Galveston resident. The host of Coast to Soul Poetry monthly open mic at the Proletariat in Galveston. In 2020, she published her first book on everything I love, Poems for Giovanni, to honor her firstborn. She is the founder of Bravado Inc., an artist collective of Black, Brown, and Asian revolutionaries, artists, visionaries, and activists for diaspora opportunity, with the mission of supporting BIPOC artists in their contributions to culture and community by ensuring artists are paid for their art. She is the organizer of the event that we are at. Audience, both in the virtual world and here live at the bar, please welcome Tirina Harris to the stage. All right. How are you?
I'm chilling.
We're good. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm gonna let you do a poem, and we're gonna kick it off that way, and then we'll be back. I'm just gonna exit stage left.
All right, y'all. So I'm gonna do a poem that I wrote a while ago. I think I quit a job every other year, every 2 years seems to be kind of a trend, and so the poem I'm going to write is from maybe 2 job quits ago, and it's called Jesus Eats Boiled Eggs and Peanut Butter. I'm supposed to leave my job at the prison. I'm supposed to leave something of a notice, but I get so distracted sometimes. I've noticed that things are looking a lot different on the way out than they did on the way in. I noticed prison ruined boiled eggs, peanut butter, and pancakes because they look a lot different on the way out than they do on the way in. I think I'm scared I do too. Everyone talks about finding Jesus when they catch a case. I wasn't looking, but I think I found him too. They didn't turn water into wine, but they could make a mean spread, y'all. I'm talking fried pickles and crumble cake without Crisco or an easy bake in sight. And he knew how to make a uniform so crisp it could stand up by itself without an iron or even one spray of starch. Church was held every Tuesday. And he could not sing, y'all, like at all. Amazing Grace had 2 verses. The second was Praise God, repeated 14 times in a row. He died in prison alone from cancer of the bones. I sat on the floor and fed him Cheerios with my hands. I remember when he could walk still, he tried to make a last meal of razors. I remember when he threw a fit because I wouldn't give him the electric razor. I said, now look, Betsy in house 16 uses it to shave his pubes. Don't nobody clean that nasty thing anyways. I'm doing you a favor. You're welcome. I think he anointed it as a blessing. You see, Jesus taught me lessons and he had a long nose. Always had something to complain about and loved drinking coffee and gardening. She lost both her daughters in freak shooting accidents. She wore purple She was never scared to share food, had a stank-ass attitude. Her mother was a Holocaust survivor, and her stepmother was an awful, awful woman. Jesus was addicted to crack. Jesus sold her body for crack and became pregnant with a crack baby. When her water broke, y'all, our fears flooded so much higher than the Harvey outside. You see, babies are not supposed to be born here. They just break so easily. But then came that first cry. And that first tear alone was enough water for us all to be baptized new life. Although we all tried, somehow we still break so easily. Jesus called me a shit-covered tarantula nigga. She had 55 staff assaults and was locked up for stabbing someone over a shopping cart. Jesus called me pigeon-toed princess, pigeon-toed Barbie. Jesus never gave me my dream house. One Sunday night, Jesus asked if I had gone to church that morning. I said yes. He asked if I ever saw amputees in church. I said, no, not really. When I realized what he was really asking, I told Jesus I've never seen anyone in church, but sometimes in the grocery store, and he nodded. Jesus was getting out soon. I guess I am too. We're both scared. We both break so easily, so we praise God 14 times in a row and thank them on the way out.
Y'all make some noise for Tirina Harris. Show some love in the comments section, audience. All right. And welcome, Rocky.
Oh my goodness. Hi, everyone.
Here we go. Let's see.
Hi, can you see me?
Hey.
Hi.
Yes, we can see. All right. We are now a full team here. We're so excited.
And I'm so excited. I just got right when you started, I was like, perfect. I'm sorry for the lateness. New York traffic is something.
Oh, we lost your audio. Bring it back. There we go.
All right, great.
So, Tirina, I want to start off because you've organized this event here that is, before we get into your book, that we're showcasing a bunch of local artists. So tell us about the impetus for this event. What is happening here today? Why did you do it? And what is going on?
So honestly, Bravado Inc. is an idea that I've had in my brain for a while. The logo existed far before the mission. I think it's a cute ass logo, but really just, I was just talking to Lachelle earlier about just kind of social media and the importance of creating spaces that don't make you want to burn everything down, and being really intentional. I'm not born in Galveston. I'm an islander by choice is what we call it. And Galveston's done a lot and means a lot for me and to me. And so wanting to intentionally create a space and design with the mission of supporting the things that I care about deeply. And then pulling everybody that I really like into it to kind of celebrate that with me.
Hey, I love that. A little round of applause for that. So let's dive into this book a little bit. It's the book that you're sharing, On Everything I Love, Poems for Giovanni. Giovanni is your daughter, your firstborn. Can you tell us a little bit about this book that you are showcasing today?
Yeah, so it's funny. The manuscript for this book has had at least 2 or 3 different titles. Initially, it was called Limited Creators, which was something that kind of came from a social work class of kind of distinguishing what are ethics versus morals versus laws. And it was kind of agreed on that when it gets to the point of something being a law, it has limited creators. There are a limited number of people who get to dictate what that thing means. And at the time, I was teaching poetry for middle school, high school, and juvenile justice students. And in a way, I'm like, oh, they are limited creators. They are making all of this art and have all these things to say about the world. But there's only so far that those words go until somebody else has to kind of warrant or allow them access to the spaces for those words. And that manuscript I don't have a book called Limited Creators, right? And so that didn't happen. And I think the biggest reason was because I wasn't ready. I had the means and I had community and I had the resources to publish. But really, this book came out of, I needed it. I was pregnant. I was confronting a lot of really toxic and problematic shit habits, tendencies in myself, while also trying to look at how do you hold yourself accountable, and also bring your child into the world from a really healthy place and not a place of of self-hate and all of that. And so I looked at what are all of what are all of the parts of me that I want to grow and want to dedicate and give to my daughter, and then put them in the book, and divided the book as such, just about being on the ass and identity and just things that I'm like, I want you to know that you got this from me, so that's really where the book came from.
I love it. Rocky, you got a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was like, there's like a little lag. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your words. It's just like so inspiring of like, where this is coming about. And so I think what I want to know too, especially since it's a book fair, you're showcasing your work right now, like if you have any new projects coming up, where do you see yourself and your work like transforming within the next couple of years?
I think for me, to answer both questions, the next project that I'm working on, but really haven't given myself like a deadline, it has a title. The title is "It's Supposed to Smell Like That."
That's so great.
It is, and whatever it is, it's supposed to smell like that. And outside of that, outside of writing, and I feel like I'm really in a space of the things that give me the most life and maintain the most energy are curating, creating, and organizing spaces to just gas up, the people that I really love and appreciate, and also get to pull in people that I haven't met yet, that I want them to have access to these spaces to showcase their work, and just really in a space of how do I create opportunities for other artists to be recognized and supported and paid with money. So yeah.
Snaps for being artists.
Yes.
And then, so you're saying that you're trying to curate or basically target certain writers. Do you have a specific audience or writers in mind of it could be an age group, it can be gender or sexuality? What is your work trying to involve with more other players?
I think I've always been really big on inclusive spaces. So when I look at audience, I want everyone to shut the fuck up, because I think that that all the people that I really rock with have something really valuable to offer. When it comes to who am I seeking out to showcase, it really is artists of the global majority. But I'm so thankful that that's language that is being normalized. But really, especially I work in and grew up around a lot of spaces that centered whiteness. And so it's when I create events that are about hey, this is Black, Brown, Indigenous, Asian artists, it's not anti-whiteness, it's just we're centering something that is not the normative of a lot of the environments that we're existing in. We're centering the words and works of people that are often we're not included in your K through 12 education, and you're missing out, so we're actually doing you a favor kind of thing. So they're welcome. But yeah, it's for everybody, from the people that I want to make sure are heard.
Oh, that's a great answer.
I love that. I want to open it up to anybody in the audience here, or anybody in the audience in the virtual space. Do we have a question that we want to pose to our featured poet right now? Throwing it out there. Don't be shy. Is this going to be an annual event?
So it will be, according to Becky, who also thank you, Becky, for letting us have this.
Shout out to Becky.
Shout out to Becky. With Becky with the best hair. So this is something that Proletariat has offered to let us kind of rock with quarterly. And so we'll be aiming to do it 4 times a year. So long as we have authors, and we don't have to have an ISBN. You could go to Kinko's, don't go to Kinko's. Reach out to somebody. There are better ways to print. But it doesn't have to be oh, this is officially published. You could legit just show up with hey, I printed this from my mom's computer. Can I sell it? The answer is yes. We want to do it quarterly. As long as we have enough artists to make it an event, it's going to be an event.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your work. Thank you for your words. We are keeping on with the speed dating formats because we have so many amazing authors. Woo!
Yeah.
All right, Raquel, you ready for the next poet?
I am definitely ready for the next poet. Who are we bringing up?
Let's do it. Next, coming to the stage, Did they pass the mic? They did. Lachelle the Shooter RH is a writer, performer, and visual storyteller from Brooklyn, New York, by way of Houston, Texas. She has a BS in civil engineering from Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, and an EMBA from Texas Women's University. She is a two-time Women of the World Poetry Slam finalist, ranking 3rd in 2021. Y'all, welcome to the stage, Lachelle the Shooter. Woo!
I feel like Brooklyn's in the house. Like,
word.
She's in Brooklyn. She's in Brooklyn. All right. Well, I'm gonna jump off the screen, and you're gonna read a poem, and then we'll come back and have some conversation.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Well, I got a quick one for y'all, if y'all are okay with that. Quick 1 minute. So this is from my chapbook that's here today. Flat Feet, Diabetes, and a Pretty Smile. Poems for my father. My sisters, cousins, homegirls, and me tie up our hair. Grab our earrings and slick down in Vaseline. We grab the strap, load the backpack, pack in the SUV, and roll out. Demons have made a party of these bodies too long. Me and my girls got the remedy. We cut off fuck boys before they speak. Got invocations on our tongues like swerve, nigga, cause we take each other on dates. Got lavish picnics with cheeses on them wood boards with the name we can't pronounce, but the wine sipping, the breeze breezing, laughter laughing, sun shining, and we got a glow that get forgotten about too often. How platonic be plentiful. The circle's small but colossal. We stay up late, shea butter and cocoa, moisturize each other's wounds so the scars fade. Do not get buried beneath the same cuts made by different blades. Ghosts, ghouls, fuck boys, and daddy issues ain't creeping into our bedrooms tonight. Come on.
All right, y'all make some noise. Let's show the shooter. Absolutely incredible. So, quick. My question: you got 2 books here in the house. Tell us a little bit about these 2 books that you got.
Okay, so the first one, because therapy ain't for Black folks. I wrote that in the comforts of my home before I decided to actually go to therapy. You know, we have this phase where we think that poetry is like therapy. So I had one of those phases too.
It is therapeutic.
It's therapeutic. It's not therapy. But yeah, so I just wrote that because I needed a way to kind of like outlet whatever I was going through before I actually got the courage to go to therapy and talk about it with people in the comforts of my own home. And when I was like just stepping into myself as like comfortably identifying as a Black queer woman. So that was that book. And then Flat Feet, Diabetes, and a Pretty Smile is really recent. Got inspired by a poem from F. Nehemiah when he released a poem called Haunting, specifically about his own personal relationship with his, I guess, baby mother and not being able to see his child. And then right on the cusp of Father's Day, I realized that like this was the first Father's Day where I wasn't okay in a long time. And I wanted to kind of grapple with that relationship or lack thereof that I have with my own father. So that one poem ended up becoming 10, 11 poems of me just like, hey, I'm going to talk my shit about my dad and we're going to be done with this, hopefully. And that's where it came from. And it just got this awkward title because coincidentally, when I went home for one of the first times, my mom and us actually talked about my father a little bit. She was like, oh yeah, the flat feet that your daughter got, you get that from your father. Diabetes too, and your pretty ass smile. So I decided to use that as the title. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. And I think, you know, when we talk about just like even family history and stuff like that, especially like centering as like a Black queer woman, right? That is how you're writing from your positionality. I kind of want to know, like, do you see other Black queer women doing it, doing this, the poetry? Where are you getting your inspiration from? And how do you want your work to reach?
Yeah, I mean, I do. Like, luckily for me, I walked into a space and it was like really safe with a lot of Black queer women, a lot of queer artists that I get to, like, I've been mentored by some of them. Some of them are my peers. I've competed against some of them, and I have not found a single one that's not dope. So Black queer women, they just do, they do the damn thing. So they are constantly inspiring me to just write and challenge me to write my best work. So I think that's really why I'm proud of the chapbook, because I feel like it's like, now that I found this circle, I'm being challenged to push outside of my boundary, and I got a chance to do that now.
Love it. So once again, we want to open it up to the audience here. Does anyone have a question that they'd like to pose to our author? Book 3. When's it coming? Is it coming?
It's coming, actually. It's going to be released at the end of August. It's called Jaywalking. And it is specifically a project centered around Black queer women, Black women, and our talk about intersectionality, and how that discussion and what that discussion looks like from both being in the communities of both Black folks, queer folks, and women. So you'll see a lot of mix, and it's a full length. So I'm excited for it.
All right. Well, the chapbook is called Flat Feet, Diabetes, and a Pretty Smile. The book is called 'Cause Therapy Ain't for Black Folks. They are available here live, but also, I believe, on a website.
Yes, on my website, violeshell.com. Y'all can hit it up anytime, and I'll send it to you. So that's it.
There you go. All right, everybody. Give it up, Michelle, the shooter. You know, Rocky, I've never done a speed dating thing, and this is adrenaline.
I was gonna say, I was like, for our audience members, because I can't see the audience, so I'm just like looking at you and the poets. But usually we do have our speed dating like section, our little area, and then today is like, oh wow, we're really speed dating these poets for real, and they're all beautiful. Like,
yeah. Well, just to prove that we are here in front of a live audience, say hello, audience. It's a first for words and shit.
It is.
All right. Yes. So our next poet, moving on. You're getting speed round. Our next poet is Kenji Lockett. Her book is called Afro. Afro will take you on a journey in the life of a queer Black woman with a male Japanese name. Included in this collection is works written over the time period from 2003 to 2018, coming out and having to navigate in a world that is not always accepting. Writing became the medicine and the best way to express these experiences. Yes, there were tender and dark moments, but at the end of those tunnels is growth. Y'all, welcome to the stage, Kenji. Come on, my new friend.
Hello.
Let me see the pack, because I think it ain't on. This is how you know we're live, people. Boom, 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 boom. All right, speak.
Yes. Am I heard?
But I'm gonna give you mine. We're gonna go. Kenji.
All right, so the title of this poem is from my first book. It's called Fat Girl Problems. I'm just gonna go from there. Fat girl problems. And even now as an adult, the insults, well, those never get old, nor are they original. From the mouth of those who don't know your soul and think you're big because you sit around and stuff your face all day. Yeah, fat girl problems. I have a vague recollection of what it was like to be small and skinny. Those years went by fast, as if being thin was never part of my past. I ate because I couldn't trust no one. Maybe it was the feelings of being inferior, living in a house full of men who teased and scared the shit out of me because it was fun. Or maybe it was witnessing all this physical, spiritual, and verbal abuse. So I ate and I ate. Instead of spilling my guts, I filled my gut with poison. And through this process of eating processed foods, I found comfort from pain and depression and from all the things that made me feel dead inside. Yeah, fat, so fat in fact, That when I was in junior high school, my father thought I was pregnant because my belly did protrude more than it was supposed to. Feeling lonely and lost for so many years, I was desensitized and I couldn't freely shed my tears. I didn't feel that love because I couldn't fully trust anyone. So I continued to eat. But years later, when my walls started to break and my hard exterior layers got peeled back like the skin on a piece of fruit, I started to see myself and my life in a different light. And I'm still trying every day to love every aspect of me, from my rolls to all my stretch marks, while fighting the illusion that there's a thin person inside of every fat person, when all I really needed was someone to confide in instead of judging my fat girl problems.
All right, y'all make some noise for Kenji. And I think I fixed the microphone. Talk into it.
Hello.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, we can't hear you, Rocky. Come back to us.
I was like, we're all having my problems right now. This is all live. This is all live. No, I think words, and I really think that, that poem really hit for me. And I just wanted to say thank you, because I feel like when we talk about poems, especially like food justice, right, and Black, what we do to nurture stuff is like so sacred. So I want to know, specifically coming from that poem, and also reading your bio, that you do a lot of community involvement with food justice. You talk about how you want to, I guess, how do you want to change, right, for your community with your words, specifically around food and your body, and then does that make sense? Am I cutting off?
Sorry, you're cutting in and out a little bit. It might be me. It might be us over here. But I think the question I was hearing was like, what do you hope your work will do in the community? What do you hope your work will change? How do you hope your work will affect people?
No, specifically with the, can you hear me?
Specifically within what community?
Food justice.
With food. Food justice.
Food justice. I think my work, I'm hoping my work will help actually people to see how they can grow and heal from the place that they are, I think I've always had an issue with my weight, and it wasn't until I became homeless and I was pre-diabetic that I really started taking a look at myself, my body image, and I started shopping at the farmer's market, and it went from there. I just started having healthier foods, and I started doing that for myself, even like just living off of food stamps, So I think for me, if people can see that someone else did it and can do it, and that if I can inspire one person, just say, you know what, I can just start from the place where I'm at or I am right now, then that would be good for me. That would be a blessing to help someone else.
Yeah, I think that's incredible because the art form, every art form has a way to like really positively impact people, and especially poetry and writing. You and I were kind of talking earlier about your journey and your process, and so you mentioned that like writing was like a therapeutic tool for you. Lachelle kind of talked on that as well, in terms of like therapy wasn't a thing that like Black people do, but you found some therapy through writing. Can you talk a little bit about how that has influenced how that has come through and in this book specifically?
Let's see here. I started writing when I was 17, and for me, it was about depression and suicide. I didn't know I was suicidal until I started writing, and that's how I was able to get access to like therapy. But at that time when I was in high school, I didn't really like therapy because they wanted to put me on medication. So writing became like something I just did every day, or when I could, like to actually help me get what I was feeling out, because I had no avenue I felt to express that. I tried to keep journals when I was a kid, but I didn't feel like I had privacy. And like my writing for me is like sacred and private, So it just became like this thing I did. And when I got to college, I actually majored in English literature. Yeah. And my teacher, one of my English teachers told me that in order to get good at writing, I had to do it every day. So I would say probably April 2004 to the end of the year, I wrote like over 300 poems. So it's just like, that just became like a ammunition. For me, it was raw. I was able to get my anger out in a positive way. I didn't have to take that on anybody else, And it was me being in my own world because I'm also an introvert. So it was just, for me, it's always been therapy that no one else can really understand unless you've been in a position of having no place to go, And, some people have dance, some people have art. I just have writing.
Yeah. Well, we want to applaud you on your journey, applaud you on your work. The work never stops. We're really excited. Your book is called Afro, Volume 1.
Yes.
So I'm curious, is there a Volume 2 coming soon?
That's in the works. I'm hoping next year, 2022. But I'm getting some new stuff together, and it's going to be better than the first one. It's going to be more growth and more healing.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Yeah, over there.
My name is Kevin. So we just went through this COVID-19 thing, and I know that food is a struggle. So did that make any really hard adjustments during this time as far as like the journey into your second book?
I think it actually made it a little bit better because with the pandemic, I got laid off from my job, so I had more time to do the things I couldn't do. So with the pandemic, it was like, okay, I was looking for a way to have more time to write and just be me and just come into myself. And I found that through this process of being laid off, I was able to write more, able to deal with whatever I had to deal with. I discovered that I was also identified as non-binary. So it was just me coming into my authentic self more through the COVID-19, which is something I don't think I could have did in a corporate setting. In a corporate setting, you had to dress or act a certain way, and I couldn't be myself fully. So it's definitely been like a step up.
Yeah, just throughout all of the horrible things that the past few months have given us, it has definitely given us a lot of time to reflect, and to look inward. So can't wait to see what happens with Volume 2 and all the reflection that you did. Thank you for joining us on this stage. Y'all, can you give it up for Kenji? All right. Here we go.
You're all amazing. You're super amazing. I'm so excited. We're like halfway through. Speed dating, yeah. We're poets. That's the thing.
All right. Moving on to the next poet. Our next poet, Eris Keon, is an inaugural member of the Coug Slam 2019's fourth in the nation collegiate poetry slam team. She was ranked number 10 in the 2020 Women of the World Poetry Slam. She is an emerging writers fellow with Writers in the Schools and Imprint C. Glenn Camber Fellow at the University of Houston. She loves cookies and cream milkshake, writing haikus to strangers on the internet, and claiming the DMV in HTX and HTX in the DMV. Y'all, please welcome Eris Keon to the stage.
Hi, Rocky.
Eris Keon, who is no stranger to the Words This Shit stage, so let me get out of the way and let you just do you.
Can y'all hear me? Yeah. All right. Hi, y'all. I'm Eris. My poem is called Circus Act. Black girl be the best magic trick with how she vanishes under a spotlight like poof. See the trap door that be the sidewalk by the train station, be the bus stop, be the back seat of a ride share. What I mean is, one time I made it home on a phone with no battery and the crowd was unimpressed. Their groans echoing about the bleachers. Give us fanfare, they chanted. Give us fire for the tightrope walk, which be my nightly commute. I do that in my sleep. A man spit through the peanuts in his teeth and I disappear behind my closed mouth smile, speed up into the lamplight, swallow the flaming hoops behind my tongue, stunt one. performed in a continuous night, no matter the hour when she is blindfolded, foldable enough to fit into a trunk or into the hands of a man she learned never loved her back. Black girl, be the best assistant. With how she falls victim to a show she never asked to be in. See how she contorts in order to fit through the tightest of holes. See how she be so seen, yet so unnoticed as she slips through the cracks, and one by one the crowd looks around, gasps, she's gone. A roaring applause awaiting the next illusion. Don't see how she wasn't really there. And everyone settles into their seats a bit more comfortable. Don't see who is going missing in the audience, dwindling until there is only you left with the mess of spit and shells around your feet and no one else to clean it.
Y'all make some noise for Eris Keon. We can't hear you again, Rocky. Come back.
It's okay. It's okay. It's just the sound has been going in and out. So we're trying something new. But this is like my third time interviewing Eris, and every time it's a joy. I always love hearing you speak. You're really becoming like you are like one of my favorite poets, really.
Thank you.
And I think you know. Of course. You look all super nice. I'm like, oh, I wish I was there like you. But my favorite thing to ask you, I think, really is like, especially with like Black academic and in your book, that you really go against like white supremacy and like white academia by making sure that the space and the pages are white and your words are like make sure that they're Black and they're taking up that space, right?
Yeah.
If you can just kind of talk a little bit more about what the tension is about that, and then would you see your next work gonna kind of do that with like, I guess, with wordplay and like page play as well?
Totally. Yeah, like a career academic right now. That's what I do. But I do find myself dealing with a lot of tension when it comes to presenting my work in these primarily white spaces, but also just very elitist kind of spaces that focus more on tradition and the institution and what they like. And I've learned how to navigate that, but I've also found a lot of my creativity being stifled for means of following a specific ideology or following a specific form. And so moving along with my next works, I have a thesis coming up and I've decided to do two.
Oh.
I've decided to do two. One that like I'm happy to have the academia, all my peers, colleagues rip apart, but one that I don't want to go through the workshop process. So that's the one I want to go through my city and the people I love and care about that are not necessarily in institutions. So that's one of the ways I'm trying to combat that sort of tension, that sort of strange feeling I have navigating these spaces. It's more work for me, but I think I'll be more excited about the work that I put out when I commit to something that's like has like the hands of my city and not necessarily just people that are in the University of Houston.
Yeah. Can we talk about the motif then of a Black woman in white spaces having to do double work?
No, absolutely. Thinking about how I often, when I'm in my classes, have to think about, am I going to write the paper that I'm excited about writing, or am I going to write the paper that people want me to write? I've had to make that choice very, very many times. Sometimes I've made the other choice, the one I didn't really want to write, but I knew that my professor would love, got high praise. And then the paper that I really was excited about writing, that was thinking about community spaces, thinking about our legends in community, in slam spaces, like Ebony Stewart, writing about these people that I love and care about, and being like, I don't think you cited your sources correctly. Like, there's no source for slam. Like, I'm not gonna get that from the Princeton Review. Like, I'm not gonna find that. So having to navigate it's been wild, but I have one more year left, so we gotta be outie.
Hey!
We gotta be out.
I love that. So you released this book, this little chapbook, a little while ago, right?
Yeah.
When we had you on, we talked about it a little bit. What's kind of been? I know you just said you're working on two theses, but what's come after this?
Yeah.
What have you been working on since?
Since I started getting into more organizing spaces, I've started thinking about how my city is reflected in my work, and how my work is reflected in my city. So right now, after Black Academic, I'm more interested in community organizing spaces and more about how those voices should show up in creative works. So that's my next project. That's my thesis. And we'll see what happens. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I'm excited to see what comes of it. Yeah.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
Oh!
Yeah. I just turned this into an EP. So if you get the book, you can listen to the poems with music in the background. If you like chill hop, that's the vibe. Thank you.
I love that. Is there any questions from the audience? Because that was a shout out from the audience. Any questions for Eris from the audience? Over here, Kevin.
Kevin, so with the EP, because that's really neat, I haven't heard that. Is that something that you're going to start doing with more pieces in the future, or is this just like a one-off?
That's a good question.
So let me repeat it for the people that are watching that couldn't hear Kevin. The question was, with the EP, since that's something new, is that something you're going to continue to do with your work, or was that just like a one-off that happened? Because you didn't originally release it with the EP.
Yeah, this was like a way to revamp this kind of project. I absolutely love my EP. I be listening to it in my car. And so I absolutely think it's something I would do again. I don't want to, this was very trying. So I am excited about it whenever it comes upon me again. I love the process of doing it, but just very low stakes, very chill. So hopefully the next project that I come with, a time constraint, but when it's ready to come out. Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks.
I love that. And we got another question.
Hi, Justine. I liked your poem and your commentary. Just as someone, I've been in the academic world, which things don't quite fit. How do we make it I just want to know, how do you make the spaces more available to everyone?
Totally. That's a great question. My answer.
Let me repeat. So the question was, as someone who has worked in academia, how do we make the spaces more accessible, more available for more people?
My idea is that
I see Rocky's face. She too works in academia.
I think by accepting the fact that the university is a lie, it does not need to be we all have the ideas and the resources. We just keep putting it within walls. Chibi does workshops outside of universities. I learned so much from this person. I learned so much from people in my communities. I think if we understand that education is not just walls. If we learn education is learning from the people around us, growing from the people that around us. The idea of a professor is wild. You can learn from your students. You can learn from your community. You can learn from artists. But also, I also just like contention in spaces. If you use the whole class just to argue, that's fine. You did what you need to do. But yeah, I think starting off with debunking the idea that the university is where people go to get information and then take it out to the community when the community already has all.
All right. Oh, another one. Hot conversation.
What's your favorite way to burn it all down?
The question was, what is your favorite way to burn it all down?
That's so funny. One of my favorite lines in class is I didn't feel loved by this text. No, I will not be explaining further. But no, that's a good question. That being very contentious in class, but also just by being outside of spaces as much as possible. Just being, one of the ways I'm thinking about burning things down is when I go to a slam, I feel the same sort of rage and fire that I get at a protest. I feel that same sort of energy when I'm at church. That community space feels like a fire. Sometimes you just need a controlled fire. Sometimes you need that really high energy, seeing people in motion. And sometimes you need to burn things down to build things up. So.
All right. Well, Eris Keon, the book is Black Academic. It is available here as well as on your website.
Yeah. You can access it from my website.
There you go. Thank you so much, Eris. A round of applause for Eris, please. Woo, Rocky, you're still here.
I know, I'm kind of in here. So, like I
We're
said, we're trying to be new, and yeah, it's great.
We're making it work. So we actually have a very special way to close out tonight's show. We have one more poet that is coming to join us to the stage. This poet is the author of How I'm Like Tequila, and he was most recently named the 2022 Texas Poet Laureate. Yo, welcome to the stage, Lupe Mendez. He's coming around. My friend and yours. Hi. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Hey. Yay. We hanging in there. Technical difficulties and all.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
All right, Lupe. I'm gonna get out of your way and just let you do what you do. Give us a poem.
If everybody would open their books to page. Kidding. Mercy. Immigration officers call off a massive hunt. State there are too many hurricanes in the area they want to pick apart. We go right back to work in Houston, ask families what they need after a storm. One lady sits on a chair outside her place, dips a piece of mold into her black coffee. She hands us bricks, wet ones, says to take them to help build that wall, said they won't even stop all the raindrops from crossing over in the night. A little girl traces a water line and crayon in one room, hasta aquí llegó, on her tippy toes. Another man hands us the dripping eviction notice. His face is soggy with fright. He tells us the cops will be here soon to kick people into the waterlogged street. He asks us to find the word mercy in the dictionary, misericordia, and rip the goddamn thing out.
Y'all make some noise for Lupe Mendez. Lupe, it is always a pleasure to hear your voice. I want to tell you, we had you on Earth in season 1, Birds and Shits.
That is correct.
You were one of the first people, one of the first few that came on. We had zero credibility. You had no idea what you were signing up for.
I thought y'all had been doing this for like 2 years.
No, not at all.
That's
And
so
you were
dope.
just like, I don't know, I trust you.
Yes.
Let's do the damn thing. So I'm curious because since we last talked, what's been going on in your life?
Raising a now 3-year-old is always in the cards. Both my partner is also a writer, and so both of our lives have been very filled with writerly things. She now is working on her 4th book. That's a children's book that'll actually come out in a few months. I am still celebrating Why I'm Like Tequila. It won an award.
Hey, yeah, clap for that.
It's 2 years old. People keep asking me about it. It's I was just named the Poet Laureate for the year after. So we'll see. I'm starting to get crazy bookings. Papa John's Pizza just booked me.
We're name dropping now.
Let's discuss. Let's discuss all the things about things. But all that said, aside from that, working on actually 2 collections at the same time, and that's wild shit. And so, can I say shit?
Yeah,
shit.
It's called Words and Shit.
Oh, and shit. So working on those 2 things at the same time and trying to hold a day job in the middle of a pandemic. So things. I love it.
Just interrupt. Let's see if we can get you out.
Can you hear me? So I was gonna say, like, it's always so interesting to be during this pandemic, and like, what does it mean to advocate for literacy and your words, and like, what does it mean to be doing everything? during this pandemic, right? Let's start with her.
I would say, interestingly, it is a constant reinvigorating energy to find ways to create space so that other people can create works that they love doing. I spent many years doing the back show stuff, so I wrote a little bit behind the curtain while staging things and other events and providing platform. And I did the rookie stuff of just doing the lights and like getting people to their seats. And then eventually got to the point of curating and organizing events in the city, to then switching gears and providing space so that we could pay writers to come and do their thing and practice their craft with the general public. I'm a big, massive fan of free everything. And so if I can, the quickest thing is, if I can provide a space where I can figure out a way to pay writers to do what they love and then have them have access to all these other people and I don't have to do shit, that is the dopest thing. I'm literally like, here's the space, here's some things, here's some pens, go. And when that works, then everybody's a winner. And we don't do it, that's it. That's pretty much it. I like being in the background. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned this when you were on our show last year. For anyone that doesn't know, Lupe Mendez is a Houston institution. You know, you have for years created spaces for people and uplifted your community along the way. So I'm curious now, as next year being a Texas institution, what kind of spaces are you excited to explore, to inhabit, and to create?
A tip of the hat to everyone here for doing this work in this town. I would begin by saying that it is a shameful thing that my brown ass has not come home to do more craft and work. That said, being Texas Poet Laureate gives me the opportunity to come back full force with lots of other ideas. Part of my focus, one, will be this space, the island. And then from then on, I've been toggling with the idea of figuring out the context, the craft, and the ability of everyday teachers in the state of Texas, and finding a way for teachers of color to express the concerns and the things that they've seen, because they are the canary in the coal mine when it comes to the ever-changing face of what is happening with policy and curriculum across the state. So part of my idea, if it works, and if I can get it funded, crossing fingers, knock on wood, is to get money so that I can visit rural and metropolitan spaces to talk to teachers in a workshop setting, and then also collect their works and anthologize it so that the public can see what's happening in our classrooms, not from behind an article, a news article that might filter what they say, but the raw language, the collected oral histories of educators from across our state.
Yeah. All right. I love that, and I can't wait to see it. I think. We'll see how it goes. You start that next year. I think we have time for one or two questions from the audience. If anyone's got, we'll go there, and then we'll go there, and we'll see if we can throw you in as well.
I think it sounded like you're talking about Hurricane story. Was that Hurricane Harvey?
Yes, it was Harvey.
Okay, so I mean, I know the answer to this, but it's like, what are some of the effects that y'all are still seeing, or that you're still seeing from people still trying to recover from Hurricane Harvey?
The question for those of you all watching in the virtual spaces, what are some of the effects that we're still seeing from Hurricane Harvey that people are still recovering from?
Port Lavaca, Port Aransas, they don't have a school district still. The state of Texas has yet to give them the funding to rebuild their school district, and all those kids are being shoveled off to 3 other school districts. point blank. When we talk about Harvey and the history and the narrative behind that, we constantly talk about the effect it had on Houston. And as a metropolitan city, yes, there are effects to our populations, but we have to play that in terms of what is also happening to rural populations who had even less resources than Houston and Harris County as a whole. That stated, the communities that have been affected the most, 2nd Ward, 3rd Ward, Old 6th Ward, all of the Southwest side, all of the North side, there are still spaces who have yet to receive any kind of monies due to them from both the federal and the state. That is still a problematic thing these many years later. The fact that we are still building out in grass areas and putting concrete, whatever next storm comes, can be that thing that again throws them into the waves. And that's the hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. And we actually have someone in the room whose primary job is helping people get the funding they need to rebuild their houses. So I'm just throwing that out there. Shout out to my sister. Question back there.
As a new Texas resident, how can the Texas community best support you in your initiatives and the change that you want to create in your new role?
So the question was, they were asking,
Give me a Kleenex.
as a new Texas resident, how can Texas communities help you and support you to accomplish your initiatives?
Once I can get the whole project up and running, tell everybody. I cannot speak to the history of the position. Well, I can speak to portions. The history of the position of Texas Poet Laureate is shady as shit. They used to provide funding at some point, but then the state got taken over by, and now there's nothing. There's no, in order for me to get money to be able to do this project, I will have to apply to the National Endowment for the Arts. Point blank. I'm eligible, and that's cool, but Texas ain't giving no shit to poets. So, and that's cool because I get to talk lots of shit now about the guy that voted for me. Hey! And that's the shit that goes. Aside from that, it's just the honest by word of mouth that has always been the letter of the day in the state of Texas. You can see it within the very structure and the quote unquote fake news of what is happening with information. And so by the same token, hopefully the positive things can spread just as wide as possible. And thank you from wherever you're from. Welcome to Texas.
Hey. Well, unfortunately, there's another show that's going to happen immediately after this, so we got to cut that conversation. But Lupe, thank you so much for joining us here.
I love you.
I love you. Lupe, everybody, his book, How I Like Tequila, is available in the room as well as, I assume, on a website somewhere. Rocky.
Hi.
This was.
I know we legit we dated 5 poets, 5 amazing poets that I wish again I was there to say hi to y'all, to give you social distance hugs or just to be with y'all. But this is amazing. I'm glad that we do the work. I'm glad that y'all do the work for us to ask you the questions about everything you do and why your word and your poetry matters. So I wanted to say thank you. Again, I can't see the audience, but I just want to give the audience a round of applause to y'all, right, for being here.
Yeah, this was wild. This was raucous. This is the first time we tried something like this. It's a learning process. I don't think it'll be the last time. We'll see what happens. Technical difficulties aside, such a great show. Thank you to the audience in the room and the audience that was watching on the virtual stage. I don't have our sheet in front of me. I don't know who's supposed to say what.
I do. So you already said the audience, so now it's my turn to say follow us on IG and Twitter, y'all. If you have your phones, Chippy can see you. I can't see you, but Chippy sees you. Take out your phones and follow us at AdWords and right, without the IT at the end. And basically, you can watch any of our episodes on YouTube and anywhere you can find your podcasts, okay?
Yeah, if this is your first time watching, if this is your first time joining us, or even if you've been here before, we have over 55 episodes on podcasts and YouTubes with poets from all across the country. So please go check that out. Next week, we will be back in our regular format, and we will be bringing Susie Q to the Words and Shit stage, a Denver institution. So we're so excited for that. But until next time, Rocky.
Saludos.
Saludos. Stay safe out there.
Bye, y'all.
Did they end the broadcast?